Hello, and welcome to Week 10 of Introduction to Philosophy. This week we'll be focusing on the political philosophy of John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. We'll begin with Thomas Hobbes and the social contract. Our goal is to analyze the relationship of government to its citizenry, called the social contract, and to follow the development of the social contract through the works of Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. The foundations of popular government as we know it today started with the Greeks and Romans. Developmentally, democracy takes a hiatus during the Dark and Middle Ages. During the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment, Europe politically, economically, and socially was transformed. It's during that time that the theory of democracy gets redefined, and Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau developed the concept of the social contract, which will establish a basis for the ideals of modern democracy. Hobbes witnessed the trauma of the English Civil War, and his experience led him to launch his political philosophy. He disagreed with the idea of divine right of kings, but justified a ruler's absolute power by reasoning the existence of a social contract. It's easy to see why he would support absolutism when he had been swept up in the violence and turmoil of a civil war. His concept of the social contract set the foundation for later political philosophers. You might be asking yourself what a social contract is or what social contract means. Well, it's an agreement, and a lot of agreements are unwritten or implied, and each participant has rights and responsibilities. For example, your family, your school, your job. You have rights, but you also have responsibilities. Pause and take a second and think about your responsibilities as a student and your rights as a student, and my responsibilities as a teacher and my rights. If I don't fulfill my responsibility to teach you, you would be angry. If you didn't fulfill your responsibility to be respectful and complete work on time, I'd be upset. Both parties have rights, but have to fulfill their responsibilities. So now I'd like you to read an excerpt from Hobbes' Leviathan and answer the questions. Let's talk about Hobbes' Leviathan. Hobbes felt that we as humans needed a Leviathan, or something to be in awe of. He thought in our original state of nature we were unhappy and miserable, and that we entered into a social compact to surrender our freedom to a ruler and grant the ruler absolute power in order to enable the ruler to maintain law and order. Since the ruler is not party to the contract, the people have no rights to complain about the ruler's policies. He supports royal absolutism. In week 10, we'll read Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan. We'll read the social contract, the two treaties of government of Locke, and we'll read about Rousseau's social contract. We're going to begin with Hobbes' Leviathan. You're not reading in its entirety. You're going to read just sections. And I want you to read these excerpts from Leviathan and then identify the main political philosophy principle of the Leviathan and line it up. So I give you 8 principles. Those are Hobbes' principles. I just want you to be able to identify which section of Leviathan each principle is from. When you're done, submit that, and you can begin working on John Locke. John Locke and the social contract. Not that John Locke from TV's Lost, a show that many of you may not have watched, but rather the English philosopher John Locke. Our objectives are to learn how Locke is similar and different from Hobbes. I want you to identify Locke's ideas regarding the laws of nature in the social contract, and, like I said, to compare the political philosophies of Locke and Hobbes. Locke was born in Somerset, England. He had a Puritan upbringing. He studied Aristotle's logic and metaphysics. He obtained a medical degree and actually worked as a doctor. After reading the works of Descartes, he turned his creative powers to philosophy. In 1690, he wrote an essay concerning human understanding and 2 treatises of civil government. Both works have had tremendous impact on succeeding generations of philosophers. He died at the age of 72. In summary, John Locke's political philosophy was that all men have certain natural rights, a right to life, to liberty, and to the possessions which they acquire by their own labor. God gave men reason in order that they may know what their natural rights are, and in order that they may devise a government to protect them in these rights. Therefore, we owe obedience to the government they have established, as long as the government protects them in their rights. When any government ceases to do this, the men who made it may destroy it. You're going to read about the definition of man and the state of nature and the rationale of the social contract from Locke's perspective. After reading and completing this work online, you can then move on to Jean-Jacques Rousseau. The Social Contract and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Our objectives are to identify Jean-Jacques Rousseau's ideas regarding the laws of nature and the social contract, and to compare the social contract theories of Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. Man was born free, and everywhere he is in chains. This is Rousseau's opening line from his major political treatise, The Social Contract. What do you think Rousseau meant by this statement? Prior to the French Revolution, Jean-Jacques Rousseau formulated his own definition of the social contract. Rousseau's form of the social contract is significantly different from that of Hobbes and Locke. Both Hobbes and Locke contend that individuals can act freely to decide their best interests. Rousseau disagreed with this, and he introduced the concept of the general will, which contends that people give of themselves totally to the whole community, including rights and freedom. Briefly, Jean-Jacques Rousseau's political philosophy was that humans in their original state of nature were happy and possessed natural rights. As inequities arose, people entered into a social contract among themselves, agreeing to surrender their rights to the community and to submit to the general will, the will of the majority. The people created government as a necessary evil to carry out the general will. And if a government fails in this purpose to carry out the general will, the people have the right, nay, the duty to overthrow and replace it. Please read this excerpt from Jean-Jacques Rousseau and answer the questions. When you've completed that, you'll be done for the week, and I hope you have a great week.